Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Digitalising the Textile Value Chain, Accelerating Sustainability and Innovation through Digitalised Colour Management by X-Rite and Pantone. Today we will learn how cutting-edge colour technology can transform the textile market, from fashion, home furnishings, and to automotive. Digital colour workflows can revolutionise the diverse textile industry value chain to reduce environmental impact. Our presenter, Thomas Meeker, has worked in the technical arts industry since completing his studies in architecture at the School of Art Institute of Chicago. In his role as 3D solutions architect, Thomas supports X-Rite's appearance portfolio as product champion for North America, helping organizations expand their colour maturity to include colour and appearance workflows in virtual prototyping. Joining Thomas today is Carola Seibold, Head of Global Key Account Management at Pantone. She works together with her team dealing with customers from any kind of industry and provide colour support from technical aspects all up to creative asks. Carola's main responsibilities are the development and implementation of key account sales and marketing strategies to build up new sale channels and territories. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into your Q&A box in your Zoom control panel. Questions are not visible to other participants and therefore will not be an interruption to your fellow participants. We will respond to these at the end. And with that, we will open today's webinar. Over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lucy, for the introduction and welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name's Thomas Meeker, as Lucy presented, and I will begin the presentation and we'll be handing it over to Carola here shortly. So many of you may have heard of X-Rite, some of Pantone. Some of you know that we are sister companies. We do work together under one roof. And today we're going to be talking about sustainability and digitalizing your color workflows. So X-Rite and Pantone are sort of the merging of art and science of color, and working from inspiration through production. And we work across different color critical verticals. Today we're going to be focused on the textile industry. Next, please. The textile industry is evolving. So we have speed to market being extremely critical. We're trying to reduce the time from inspiration to final production through digital communication. And also there's a pressure to digitize workflows and continually innovate. Local design and global production. So product lifecycle management tools. So the PLM tools that are potentially in place where you are. We have unique consumer buying patterns. So decrease ownership, forcing designers to be cost conscious as volume purchases are declining. Immediate response to trend information. So being able to work fast and communicate quickly. And of course, sustainability being a must. So the competition is taking notice. So we have looked at 91% of brands investing in increased digital presence, and 99% of brands are investing in speed to market reduction. Of course, this is incredibly important. Next, please, Carola. So to touch on the sustainability aspect, there are a number of things that lead to sustainable practices in the digitalized workflow. We want to help companies be able to get to market faster, do less physical prototyping, and be able to continue to do that process in a much more efficient way. Next, please. So why sustainable manufacturing? Of course, we need to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability to meet the needs of future generations. We can do this through enhancing competitiveness. So in order to be competitive in today's marketplace, sustainability needs to be a component of your business. Of course, we all want to save money. So we're not monitoring color throughout the production. And we want to lead to or avoid expensive rework. And then, of course, reducing environmental impacts through less physical prototyping and things like that. So creating the sustainable workflow, the key to sustainability and digitization is, again, the ability to communicate at different places within the product life cycle. So we want to make sure that we can do these visualizations, do these communications through perhaps 3D virtual representations, utilizing some recycled raw materials. So actually being able to specify those and communicate those more appropriately. And then really just monitoring the color accuracy. We can do this through digitizing color and applying color management at each stage. It doesn't necessarily just have to be in design or in the manufacturing process, but actually those two things working together, and creating an end-to-end life cycle that focuses on color. And I'm going to hand it over to Carola for the next few slides.
Thank you, Thomas. So how can color contribute to also reducing waste? Sorry for that. So I think, and as you probably heard, I'm taking care for the key accounts in Pantone, and I'm doing this job since 15 years. And my personal background is the textile industry. So what I see over the years is that a big demand is that get color consistency over production runs or suppliers. What you can see on the left side is what happens very often. You have a color in mind, you get maybe even a Pantone color code in your hands, which you like. And what happens after production is that you get a little bit more, a different color in hand, which you maybe even don't like. So our intention is in Pantone and X-Rite together to really give you the right tools, instruments and services to make color accuracy. And this is not a matter very often of budget. This is very often a matter of understanding to implement it. The same problem you have very often if you use multiple material in one product, and it has not to be only shoes. This can be also in every jacket and every trouser where you have zippers or inline layerings or something like that from different materials. Here the challenge gets even harder. So the left side again is something which you see in reality. The right side is what you probably like to have. And as I said, I worked already 15 years in Pantone, and I worked before in the textile industry, so you can guess now how old I am already. So when I started my career, it was somewhere in the 90s. I worked in this way. I was sitting on a desk, and of course it's not me here on the photos. I was sitting on a desk with some colleagues. We were sitting in offices with any kind of light conditions. We cut T-shirts to send it around, and at this time already we have a lot of production in Asia Pacific with multiple suppliers. And then we got lab tips back. And do you know what we have done? We make these comments here, make it more fresh, make it less greenish, or we're almost there, but a little bit too dirty the color still is. And do you know what that means? That means nothing. It's super, super subjective, and it's subjective for everybody of us. But can you imagine we sitting here in Europe try to communicate something, or we sit in the US, wherever you are, and you try to communicate something to an even different culture somewhere else on the globe. Does such sentences even make it to talk about colors in a professional aspect with our words? So this was all which I have done in the 90s because nobody knows it better. Do you know what is today with a lot of my clients? And I don't mean this as a personal criticism, but to be honest, still a lot of my clients go to the window to check colors. They even don't use light boxes. They're still cutting T-shirt and think it's a good idea to send it around. They still do all these verbal things like make it more fresh. But our world has been changing so a lot. Our world has gone digital in everything. Think about your smartphone. This was even not existing in the 90s. Now it's your life. Why you're not doing the same digitization in color, which is the most important attribute in every product you're doing. Believe me or not, if the color is wrong and off, nobody touch it. It doesn't matter if it's the best price, the best styling, the best position in the store, it's gone. So we have the first poll for you, and we have some polls for you. And please do us a favor, help us to answer these polls, because this will help you also to understand where maybe your competition is sitting. So the first poll is, does your color development process looks like today? And we have the 3 answers for you. So take a minute, do it now. It will be great if I can announce the result in a minute. So answers coming in, and it's still coming in, but it looks like that we have the majority of people doing a hybrid model. That means they work a little bit digital and they work still a little bit really manual. We have even 17% saying that they do a fully digital process, which is really a good result for the market. And we have still 22% who really say we just have a manual process. For all those of the 22%, let's step out. For the one which are in the middle, reach out to us. I'm sure we can help you to get it done in a very professional way. So now I need to go back to the presentation. So what is the color conflict you're dealing every day? So I think we have on the one side brands and specifiers, which are normally doing design and specification of color. On the other side, we have manufacturers and producers, which are all the mills, the agencies, which are all sitting in the middle. So all these 2 parties have to work in a way together. Very often they sit really far away from each other. And what happens here is design to inspiration, specification is the definition of the color. The pre-production is doing communication on what the production is doing, you know yourself. So this is where we try to go really in and help to bring these parties together in understanding their different languages and really work closely together to get a perfect result at the end. So what our intention is, and what we already have implemented in a lot of big key accounts together, X-Rite and Pantone, is that normally you have about a 10 to 20 day workaround in the first part, which is sitting more on the design side or product management side. So then you have the other party, which comes in then between design and pre-production, which can be even up to 40 to 50 days. Think about these could be almost 3 months. And then again, you have the production. And in all these 3 boxes where you lose a lot of time, and you heard before from Thomas that one key message is people want to get up speed. In the world today, where everything is turning so much and so much faster than 20 years ago, you have to be fast. So you need to reduce the time to market. With Pantone X-Rite tools, you can really go down here from 10 to 20 days into 4 days. In the pre-production process, you can go back from 40 to 50 days to 10 days. And the same in production from 30 to 40 days to 6 days. Of course, every information we are giving you today is just based on color. We're not talking about anything organizing material or whatever challenge you can get in this new world. So with so many places for color to go wrong, it can be hard to know how to get it right. But here we are for you. And just let me express, we have in Pantone X-Rite about 900 people who are all color experts, and we have it everywhere in the world. We have 17 own offices, so wherever you have a challenging color, we have the right people for you to help. So important is that you see really these things coming together, the digitization of color and the virtualization of color and appearance. And for the second part specifically, Thomas will give you a lot of more insights in a minute. So sorry, this is really hard to speak. The digitization of color means you need to use spectral color data as well as spectral colorimeter or spectrophotometer across the full color development chain of color. And I want to give you an example which happens very often. And I was even invited with a big client some years ago, where we really test how their color moved from the Pantone starting point, which we consider to be a Pantone swatch card, a cotton swatch, until it comes on the shelf. And we have done this with the senior leadership team of this big company. And to be honest, they was shocked themselves how far the color has moved out because the control was not given in a digital way yet. So what happens is from design to specification, to pre-production, to production, to quality control. You see, the color was blue at the beginning. It got more greenish over the handing over period. And at the end, you almost have green in hand. Of course, this is a little bit more over the top, but our idea is there is no movement of color. Color have to be consistent from the beginning when a designer really invests a lot of time to pick the right color until the color ends up on the shelf. So what can Pantone do for you? Of course, you know, we have a lot of physical products. They're coming in cotton and synthetics. We also have it in a nitrocellulose lacquer, which is good for everything which is hard goods or leather, for example. Just watch out if you're in the textile industry, you work with the Pantone Fashion Home Interior System. There are still people on the market that work with our graphic and packaging system, which is ink printed on paper, and you can never be sure to achieve that color, mostly not. So you need to work with the right system in Pantone. Of course, also we have a lot of trend forecasting booklets, which even help you then to find the right color. This is all in the physical world. But since a while, we also starting with designers in the digital world, which we do through Pantone Connect. And Pantone Connect is the new app we launched last year. And they not only give you access to more than 15,000 Pantone colors digitally, we have a lot of other cool things which Pantone Connect can do. Let's make the most important thing first. Pantone Connect will enable you to bring Pantone colors back to Adobe. Maybe you recognize then in Adobe, there was Pantone colors before, but to be honest, since 2000, I forgot when, 10 years ago, let's say that, Adobe has not updated the Pantone systems anymore. So you miss a lot of colors. So we was forced at the end, and this was a long discussion with Adobe, that we split our two companies. So we have now Pantone Connect. You can upload everything in Adobe, but it's not automatically there anymore. So it's an easy click to do. You just need to subscribe to Pantone Connect. What Pantone Connect can also do is give you cross references and convert. What we learn more and more is that people work on digital platforms when they do color design. So this could be a 3D design tool. This could be, of course, a lot of Adobe design programs. What you very often get is an RGB value, like you can see here. What happens if you have no idea if this RGB value, which you have on your screen and you like a lot, can this be really converted into a real product at the end? Can this be dyed in cotton? And this is the most important question. It's not a help if you like a color on your computer screen. Most of the time, to be honest, the computer screen is even not calibrated. So you need really to watch out that you make a conversion into the Pantone real world to see if your RGB value comes up in a cotton sample. Here, with this RGB value 69,109,35, which is a greenish khaki tone, you're lucky. There's a very good match, as you can see here in the Pantone Fashion Home world. But I can give you an alternative, which is not, you will not be happy to see. Bright colors specifically have a big challenge to be converted into our real world. So the color space on RGB is much, much bigger than the color space we can do in our real world. So this RGB value, which is almost fluorescent color, and you see I try to match it to our more stronger fluorescent colors, you cannot find a good match. So that means this color, if you like it as much you can, you will not be possible to produce it later in a very good match. And what Pantone Connect also can do is you can search for colors, you can share palettes with colleagues. This got more and more important since Corona times, because most of the people work in a hybrid solution. They even don't sit in the office together anymore. So it's important that you can share palettes with colleagues on a digital workspace and then bring it back to reality. We also launch a lot of trend forecasting in Pantone Connect. So if you're interested in the latest story about pink or green or whatever, just have a look to it. You get the hottest news in trend forecasting also on Pantone Connect. Another exciting thing is you can extract colors. So that means you have a photo made somewhere for inspiration, and you would like to understand what is this turquoise here on the trousers of the photo, which kind of Pantone color is it? And what you can do, you can go with a cursor over the photo and then extract the Pantone code which you need. And of course, which we can see very soon in the future, that we will have mood boards. It will not be on our wall sticking in the office anymore because we are in home office maybe. So it's good to have these mood boards also digitally. So at the end, what Pantone is doing, not only helping designers to find good colors, we also help you with some tools. And you see a very small handheld tool called Pantone Capture to specify colors. That means with one click, this small device can give you from this, it's a linen garment, I think here, can give you the right color in the Pantone system. So there's no subjectivity anymore, no light condition which is influencing your choice of color. This machine is doing the work for you, and you be really on the right side to get the right color. So in Pantone, of course, as I mentioned before, we take care for our clients. We try to help them to implement the digital color workflow. And I have done 2018 a big project with CNA together, and they was very pleased about the result. Within 6 months, they could jump for first hit match from their lab dips from 45% to 92%. That means before, every lab dip, more than half of the lab dip have been rejected. After implementing digital color workflow with all the different stakeholders, suppliers, agencies, headquarters, they go down to have really a first hit match of 92%. So you can imagine how much time they really saved on that journey. And we have another big client, which I'm not allowed to name it. It's a Swedish company. And you know, there are not too many big Swedish companies. And this Swedish company, we have done a very cool project with X-Rite and Pantone together. So we implemented from the supply chain to the headquarters with all the X-Rite spectrophotometers and the Pantone Live Cloud, who also hold all the Pantone data. We really have done the full process. And their main concern was they have lost too much lead time in developing color. So they have normally a color development which takes about 28 days, which was it's a month, and now they go down to 7 days. So this saving in time was the key thing for them, which makes them really entirely happy, and roll out after a global test the full project. This is, by the way, what we do very often, that we do first a global test with our a global pilot test with our clients, and then go for the full rollout. So if you need Pantone data, digital data, and you don't know where to get it from, you can also buy it one by one. So we have a Pantone Smart Affiliate website, which we can install for our key accounts, or you can also get access on our normal website. So that means you have a lot of possibilities to get access to Pantone digital data to not only you, also, of course, your supply chain. So I hand over to Thomas to give you more details about what X-Rite can do for you to implement your color workflow.
Thanks, Carola. Yeah, that was great. So where I sit within X-Rite is the virtualization of not only color, but also appearance. So we often refer to appearance as going beyond color, because color is the first step in specification and inspiration, but then we need to understand how the entire appearance of that material is going to have an effect on our designs and products that we're working on. So we can move to the next one, Carola. So within X-Rite, and which we work really closely with Pantone to be able to communicate and achieve these colors and appearance, the things that we're talking about with appearance is the way that it impacts the entire overall color. And we understand it's crucial to the different companies to be able to also communicate things like gloss or things like shimmer, or some of those words that we saw Carola talk about, that it would look dirty or it looked, you know, these subjective words that we tend to use, but be able to actually give those some sort of data set or value. And this is incredibly important for all materials, but we often talk about this with as the way that we attach it to things like effect pigments and paints, and also plastics, metals, fabrics, and different types of meshes. So some of the products that I'll be talking about are a service that we do, which is virtual material scanning. So where X-Rite will actually do the measurements of those materials. And what we're doing is we're taking these measurements and then using them in a 3D rendering program. Perhaps it's a pre-rendered material that you're working with, but being able to do this all virtually is the goal here, or digital, as we talk about too. The file format that we're talking about is the appearance exchange format. Some of you may be familiar with our CXF, that's the color exchange format. This is the evolution of that color exchange format into full appearance. And I'll also be talking about our Pantora Material Hub, not to be confused with Pantone. It's only a couple letters off, but this is the material hub with which we do measurements of our materials. Gives you the ability to render them and view them, and also be able to work with those materials so that you can apply them to 3D models in a 3D rendering workflow. Next, please. All right, so how do we communicate appearance? I mentioned before the AXF file format. That is an X-Rite proprietary format that is available to use in many software platforms today. I'll be talking about that in a little bit more. But the AXF file is the digital twin. You may have heard that language before, a digital twin of its physical counterpart. And it's comprising that full appearance measurement information. And then we can also attach metadata to that. So when talking about the needs of the PLM system, product lifecycle management, being able to attach data about the vendor or what catalog it's a part of can all be attached to this information. So not only is it color, but it's all the information that is important to be able to share across the different groups within a company. As I mentioned before, the CXF format is X-Rite's color exchange format. This was originally developed in the early 2000s. So it gave customers and companies the ability to communicate color as spectral data, but also in other formats so that it could be used across the different groups within the organization. So the appearance exchange format is the ability to communicate material appearance digitally, because we understand that color is only the beginning. It is part of the inspiration. It is part of the specification, but we want to be able to take out some of those obstacles that come up within the process. If you remember, Corolla showed those, the slide where there were the different colors, and by the time we get to the final color, it's off. We want to help to be able to communicate those things, understanding that appearance is the appropriate way to do that. Next, please. So when we talk about appearance, I mentioned a couple of characteristics before. Color, of course, being that first step, we need to understand that color, but depending on the material substrate, that color may be very different in the end. So the things that can also have an effect on that color are things like gloss, of course, texture being a huge variant within those appearance characteristics. We also have things like translucency, transparency, and complex fabrics. So thinking about those highly reflective metallics and things like that, that are very difficult to communicate, being able to give that a set of criteria that is efficient in communicating with the labs or with the manufacturers is incredibly important. So how do we perceive appearance? So there are certain things that are needed to be able to understand appearance. Things like with color, we need to make sure we understand that there's a light and there's a viewer and then there's the object. Well, it's similar in the way that we view this virtually. So the first thing that we need is the material geometry and the microsurface. Think textile. So on the left-hand side is a material that was measured by X-Rite and then applied to a 3D model of a textile and then rendered to be able to communicate and be able to visualize that material. So that is, of course, one of the important pieces in being able to perceive appearance. We also need a scene and illumination. So what lighting condition is that in? Carola mentioned before, people bringing samples up to a window to be able to evaluate. That's one way to do it, but what we'd encourage is that you're using a controlled lighting situation with something like one of our light booths. So we also need to be able to control that digitally or virtually. The next piece is we have to give it context. So we can then build out a 3D model of a retail space and then create the lighting so that we know how it's going to look on the shelf eventually. So all of these pieces, oh, and finally the observer. So we need somebody that can actually perceive this. We need someone to be able to see this in a way that gives it context so that we can actually truly understand the appearance of this in the situation that we want to. So I mentioned before the software platform. Carola talked about Pantone Connect. We have the software called Pantora, which is used to capture data. It's also used to be able to visualize the data. So the good thing is that we don't necessarily need to measure everything again. We can pull from our Pantone libraries. We can use the CXF files or other spectral data. And then we can also measure. So down on the lower left-hand side, you see 3 of our instruments, one being our VS3200 MetaView. This is a 045 degree spectrophotometer. The one in the middle is our multi-angle MAT12 that is used for effect finishes and other types of materials that have a lot of complexity to them. And then the one on the right is our benchtop instrument. This is the one that you're probably more familiar with. This is used a great deal in the textile industry, but each one of those instruments can measure things differently. And then we can use all of the data from those different instruments. You may use one, you may use all 3, but with that other color data that may already exist, we can start to create a new digital library of the materials. So you'll see here in the screenshot from the software, we're creating libraries of all of our materials. So moving beyond color into the full material appearance. So we're able to extract the dominant colors in AXF. So if this is something that you're measuring and you want to be able to communicate the different colors within that, we can do that. We can also browse these colors. So if you're looking for all of the red textiles that you have, we can search by that. We can also recolor. So this is something that through using spectral data, we can do with accuracy. We're not simply changing just the RGB values of the color. What we're doing is changing the values of the specularity, the gloss, the different pieces of the material appearance that are important in being able to accurately virtualize these materials. The next step is to also do quality control. So being able to actually quality control some of these other characteristics. This is something that we're currently in the development of, but is a really important piece of this appearance story or appearance journey. And then we also have the ability on the right-hand side in the middle to visualize it. So you don't have to, if you don't already have a 3D rendering or 3D virtualization workflow, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a huge jump to learn those softwares. You can actually use our software to begin to visualize those virtual materials. So here we're looking at the three different instruments, which are spectrophotometers that I spoke about. And on the right-hand side is our TAC7 appearance capture instrument. Our TAC7 is capable of measuring basically all of the material characteristics, except for the spectral workflow, because it is based on images. So, but we can use that data with some of these other instruments, or use these instruments on their own. The TAC7 is something that we offer. I mentioned on the first slide that we do a scanning service. So we can use our TAC7 instrument and do measurements for you, or you can do them right on site and measure with our benchtop instrument, the MetaView, or our multi-angle. What you see here is, this is how materials are communicated in a computer graphics language. The next slide will show a little more information about what those characteristics are. So this may be a language that perhaps you're not familiar with, perhaps you are, but this is how you could decide, depending on the industry and depending on your needs, what is the appropriate instrument for that workflow. So for the textile industry, we want to be able to communicate things like the color. We would recommend using the benchtop, but then to do the texture and other characteristics, we'd recommend using our MetaView or MAT12. So these are workflows that we consult on and offer solutions for. So depending on the industry that you're in, and with this audience, it's mostly in the textile industry. So I'm going to talk more about our MetaView. So the MetaView can actually capture things like texture, and so also for leathers and anything else that the texture is going to have a huge impact on the overall appearance of that material. I have a slide coming up that I'll show this in more detail, but this helps to sort of understand which device is appropriate for the type of material. Now, it may be a combination. You may already have all of the spectral data from a benchtop, and then you want to measure all the textiles with the MetaView. This gives you the ability to take that color information and add it to the textures from another instrument. So this is a slide where we have two images. One of them is a 3D rendering, and one of them is a photograph of the physical material. So I'll just give you a second, decide which one is the virtual, which one is the photo. And if you hit again, Corolla, that's what it is. Perhaps some of you are correct. Some may be surprised that you mix them up. The idea is that we want to match reality, right? We want to be able to visualize these materials, share them, communicate them in a way that the viewer can really get a sense for what that material truly is. The color, again, being the first step, but full appearance as well. The one on the left-hand side, which is the virtual, uses a software called V-Ray. This is a rendering software platform. Some people may be familiar with it. There are a number of different 3D rendering programs where our AXF file can be used. This is just one example. So I talked earlier about a slide which we can look at to illustrate that materials, although they're the same color, they look very different. because of the appearance of them. When you have a perforated material, those perforations create a dark space that has an overall effect to the material. When we look at materials that may have like a velvet-like surface, like the one on the right, that one is going to also change how reflective that material is, how we see that material. So this is a great way of showing that color is the important first step, but that achievability piece can actually be explored virtually. We don't have to go and have all materials physically prototyped. We can actually do some of this work and make decisions earlier in the process, making the life cycle or the process of introducing a new product much faster. So I have included some renderings. So these are virtual prototypes. They're not photographs. These are virtual versions of these designs. And it gives you a sense of what you are capable of doing with this data to be able to start to make these decisions much earlier in the process. This is a shoe that we did for a conference a few years ago, which is a great example of being able to use this data to be able to make decisions earlier. Here's another rendering that we did, which gives you not only the textiles, but we actually measured the metal and this iridescent, what would you call it? Like a bead on the end of the metal piece. So this is, again, yeah, another great example of being able to use the AXF file with all the appearance data to look at your proposed designs. And then next, just changing the material out to be able to look at it in different ways, but be able to do this very quickly really gives you the opportunity to make some decisions earlier. And then here's another rendering of another set of shoes where, we've measured these materials. You'll notice the material on the for the foot of the shoe is that red material that we looked at, the photograph and the virtual, now applied to a shoe so that we can, again, see what this is going to look like. We gave it some context this time. We put it on a table. We could, of course, put this in a retail setting. We could put it in a light booth and then start to do some comparisons and evaluation of our proposed designs. This is a testimonial from one of our, it's a global luxury apparel brand. Again, they did not want to be named, but because everybody wants to keep it very secret, who have made this this leap into virtual prototyping to be ahead of the game, but this is something that is available to everybody. So at the core of material process is a flexible solution for easily creating, processing, and providing virtual materials in a multitude of different systems with the ultimate level of realistic depiction. The solutions from our partner X-Rite help us to accomplish this. So earlier I was talking about, I mentioned V-Ray as a rendering platform. You'll see that on the top right there. But I also wanted to share that that is not the only software that you can use. You can use our software, or the AXF file format can be used in a number of different 3D rendering and modeling platforms. So you may recognize a couple of these names if you're already using something like Shoemaster or Clo or Modo or Keyshot or any of these platforms that already support our AXF format. We want to make sure that you can use these file formats within the different platforms, with Adobe being a new one. You'll see this one on the bottom, Substance by Adobe, they already accept our AXF file format. So if you're working in an Adobe workflow, you can already make that leap to 3D with one of their products. So we want to see our vision as intended. in this image, this is actually a rendering of a living room that I did a few years ago. It's actually been quite a few years now. It was when ultraviolet was our color of the year. But what I did here is work to be able to show that we could create a wall paint color. We could do our furniture. We could do our ceramic mugs. We could create artwork, but or a lighting fixture, but utilize that color data, but then see how that looks with its full appearance. It really gives you the opportunity to explore more than the inspiration, the mood board, and move into that prototyping phase. All right. And here's our second poll question. Please let us know where you're at in this journey. It would be great for us to understand, and we look forward to better understanding where everyone is at. Excellent. All right. So we have about a third is already using a workflow like this. That's great to hear. We have about half that are not using a 3D workflow, and about another third, about 20%, that are saying that we are not, but we would really like to in the near future. So that's great for us to understand, and we're certainly here to help you in that journey. We do a lot of work consulting, doing an audit, coming in and helping you better understand the tools that are available to you, and working with you to help take the next step on this journey. So yeah, please let us know if we can help. So what are the rewards of enhancing your current color measurement program? So we've talked about this a lot. Improve the time to market. We want to create less iterations. We want to use less physical prototypes. This helps us with also that sustainability. We also want to align on the physical and digital. If we have the confidence that our digital is functioning in an accurate way, then we can be confident that it is a safe way to work and not have to do as much in the physical space. We want to improve our quality and compliance. So this is by using standards, by actually communicating in a way that is more efficient, that again, you have that confidence, the quality and compliance is going to improve. And we really want to optimize what we're spending, right? The being able to work digitally, work virtually is going to help in that regard. We can do less virtual or less physical prototyping. We don't have to, if you made the final product and the color's off, all the waste and everything that comes with that, having that confidence will truly help save money in the end. So what we're doing with Pantone and X-Rite, we're bridging the gap between color and appearance. So I'm just going to read this because I think it's really helpful. Your success hinges on accurate and consistent color. We can help you achieve the highest level of color integrity. And our last poll. So would you like to be contacted by a color expert from either X-Rite or Pantone? Maybe you're curious to learn more. Maybe you would like for us to come in and do an audit, work with you, talk about the different solutions, how to take that next step. I think that's probably the most daunting part of this process is, how do I make that next step? We'd be very happy to talk to you about that. Excellent. Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Carola, as well for joining today. And I really appreciate the work that Carola did with this as well. And we just want to thank everybody for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.
very
And
much
maybe
for that.
sorry, let me give one last comment here. Let me give one last comment here. Thanks, Thomas. I just remind everybody, if you want to get the slides to learn more about it, you see Thomas and my email address here. So feel free to just send us an email. And then, of course, we will share the slides with you to maybe do some internal meetings or whatever. And if you need us, yeah, we are more than happy, of course, to follow. Thanks a lot also for the X-Rite team to organize it.
Thank you very much, both. That was a really insightful presentation. We do have some questions as well. So starting with the first one, how can I make sure that all my suppliers are using original digital data from Pantone?
That's a good and fair question, and a very important question, because the challenge is in Pantone that it's distributed globally. We have a lot of big, let's say, fan base outside, but that means a lot of people think they can measure their own digital data. They use a Pantone product, which is maybe 10 years old, and measure it. So this is a big risk to really start with wrong digital data in their hand. So we really recommend, if you want to work digitally, also with your supply chain, align with us, and we can help you to give them the right digital data in hand.
Excellent, thank you very much. Next question is, who can I contact from Pantone to start a pilot test for the digital implementation?
Okay, this is a very simple answer. Just contact me. You'll find me on LinkedIn, and you will find a lot of interesting things we post from LinkedIn. And I will then distribute it to my colleagues and to the team globally. But the first reach could be really me, and then we will find the right local person for you to help.
Excellent, thank you. Next question. My suppliers are located in Asia. How can I make sure they get local support?
That's for me or for X-Rite? Sorry, I don't get it.
Yeah, I think I can take that one.
Yeah.
Because I think that with X-Rite, especially, we have offices all over Asia. And so I work with a lot of my colleagues in Asia to help create this network system between perhaps the designer in North America or Europe, and then with our the textile manufacturers in Asia. So we do have offices all over the globe, and we do a partnered approach to any need that you have to make sure that communication and any barriers that might be in between those can be resolved.
Excellent, thank you very much. Another question. Are there any solutions for SMEs? How can a small company afford digitalization?
So I think that there's a number of ways. Especially if you're early in the journey of doing anything like that we have solutions, whether it's doing a pilot program, working with like a subset or a case study in one of your designs to sort of show what can be done at any budget, really. That is something that we're always willing to do. So it can be as simple as starting off with a few materials or a few color palettes, and then doing that case study. We'll do that, yeah, anytime. We do that very often for companies that are just getting started. I've been working a lot with automotive and other companies and getting this journey started. And in my 8 years I've been with X-Rite, we've been able to take them from the first project to success within their company. So yeah, please reach out and let us know.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Next question. There are a lot of colors of lots of colors of Pantone are metamatic. Can we get a recipe of colors that are from different substrates?
Yeah, I think the question was, I also read the question, it was probably with a typo mistake. I think it's called metameric. I think so, but let's see. So
sorry.
No, it was typed in with some typo mistake maybe. So yes, we have recipes from Pantone. So best will be to reach out to me, and I can help you to show you where you can find it.
Excellent. I believe that now does conclude the end of our Q&A session. Thank you very much, Carola. Thank you very much, Thomas, and thank you everyone who attended and participated today. Looking forward to seeing you all soon.
Very good.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks for joining. Bye-bye. Thanks, Lucy.